Molly Bloom is no stranger to anyone. Known as the Poker Princess and famous now because of the movie Molly's Game, which even got nominated for 2 Golden Globes. The story of this poker princess is a roller coaster full of ups and downs. What did she do in the poker world that made her the most wanted target of the FBI? Let's start at the beginning of her story. While seeking for something to do before law school, Bloom stumbled across the world of underground high-stakes celebrity poker.
Inviting you to come help these poker games.
Right, so I was taking a year off in between undergrad and presumably law school. And I went to LA because I just wanted to be warm, just have fun. And my parents were not on board with that, so the money got cut off, so I got like a million jobs in LA. I was a waitress, I was a cocktail waitress, I was also an executive assistant.
She eventually found herself in the eyes of US authorities, who were after the poker princess for her involvement in organizing illicit games.
Then 2 years later, I moved back to LA.
They asked her to name the powerful men who played at her table, but she refused. But where did it all start? Bloom was born on April 21st, 1978, and raised in Loveland, Colorado. Her father, Larry Bloom, was a clinical psychologist and professor at Colorado State University, while her mother, Char, was a ski and snowboard teacher as well as a professional fly fisher with her own clothing brand. Years before she supervised incredibly lucrative poker games, Molly Bloom grew up in a family of overachievers and even aspired to compete in the Olympics. Her 2 brothers, Jordan Bloom, who's a heart surgeon at Massachusetts General Hospital, and Jeremy Bloom, an Olympic skier and Philadelphia Eagles professional football player, were always her competition in the family. Literally, if you weren't the best in the world in my family, it wouldn't be impressive, she said. I was looking for this thing that was going to make me feel fulfilled inside. While in college, after training under the supervision of her loving but domineering father and competing at a high level, Bloom turned herself into a competitive skier as she excelled at the sport and was once placed 3rd in the NorAm Cup season rating for women's mogul skiers. There were speculations that she left skiing due to an injury, however, it wasn't the case. She decided to retire from skiing due to a personal coup. Bloom did face some physical challenges as a child, including an emergency back operation at the age of 12 that left her unable to compete in skiing. She then attended the University of Colorado Boulder, where she graduated summa cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. After leaving skiing and headed towards something new in her life, Molly Bloom moved to Los Angeles, California in 2004. This was the time when things took a different turn in her life. Her career began as a bartender at various nightclubs, but she eventually settled into a permanent position at the Viper Room. Molly Bloom was surprised when Tobey Maguire, a celebrity, called Darren Feinstein, one of the owners of the Viper Room, and discussed starting a poker tournament in the basement. The transactions were finalized within a few days, and the games were up and running. Molly, then a waitress in Los Angeles, was in charge of pouring beverages and controlling the game setting for the participants. She gradually mastered the solitaire and poker industry, as well as hosting, and built up a network of poker players who tipped her amazingly. Bloom met her future boss in an interesting way. Played in the film by Jeremy Strong after he nearly hit her with his car in Los Angeles. She had recently quit her work as a waitress, and he spotted her outfit.
Recruiting players, I was doing much more than just waitressing.
The man, whom she refers to as Reardon Green in her book, hired her on the spot for a position at his restaurant. The entrepreneur eventually made Bloom his assistant as well. However, things were tough for Bloom at this point. Her boss wasn't the friendliest of employers. According to her memoir, the line in the film in which he rejects a bag of bagels he had requested her to buy, exclaiming, "These are poor people bagels," is authentic and true. However, he did introduce her to the world of poker and the game at the Viper Room, a bar which he co-owned. However, eventually he fired her from the game. This wasn't a complete failure, as she used her new contacts to establish her own. I'm sure the boss did not expect that when he fired her. By 2007, Bloom had become the unintentional entrepreneur behind an underground poker game. As a result, she established Molly Bloom Inc. Her poker tournaments in 5-star hotels earned her a huge amount of cash, thousands of dollars each night. Despite the 2008 crisis, she was able to conduct tournaments in New York's luxury houses and resorts, such as the new Astor Place and Plaza Hotels. The business tycoon went about her business as usual, even when the world was in an economic crisis. They do say everyone can survive a bull market, the real ones can survive a bear market. Aside from actor Tobey Maguire, who was one of the first celebrities to participate in poker tournaments, Molly Bloom was able to amazingly draw a number of Hollywood celebrities to high-stakes poker games held at some of the most elite restaurants. Molly organized 2 hidden games that drew some of Hollywood's biggest names, including Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Macaulay Culkin, Alex Rodriguez, Pete Sampras, and others. Bloom only mentioned celebrities that were outed in the media previous to the book's publication. She remained mute about the others. After all, she was protecting their identities. Maguire, also known as Player X, played by Michael Cera in the movie, in Molly's game, made an impression, though not in the most charming way, allegedly behaving in belittling and borderline abusive ways. According to Time, the actor once offered Bloom $1,000 to bark like a seal, and subsequently insulted her over the phone after she lost control of her profitable Los Angeles-based game. When questioned by Vice in 2017 if she could ever look at Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man the same way again, she replied, "I haven't even tried." As Bloom's profile was on the peak at the time, so too was her involvement in narcotics, illicit substances, and money. Curious to see how the story unfolds? Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe for more poker content. She told a news source that it was the hardest period of her life, that she thought it was just contextual. However, she came to realize that it really wasn't the case at all, and she really was an addict. Bloom stayed up in New York City's Plaza Hotel, supervising poker games that, according to a news source, required investments of up to $250,000 and hosted players whose losses frequently totaled an insane amount of millions of dollars.
I mean, like the buy-in, it started out like $10,000.
Started out at 10,000.
And then it got up to like 100,000 and whatever, just to get in the door.
Yeah, ultimately it got to 250,000.
250,000 just to start playing the
Right,
game.
first buy.
What's the most you've ever seen on a table like before the hand is dealt?
I don't know how much I can't remember how much I've ever seen in a hand, but I saw someone lose $100 million in a night.
100 million in one night.
100 million. And he paid the next day.
She eventually, and perhaps predictably, caught the attention of Russian mobsters, who offered her security in exchange for money, which she turned down. In response, she was beaten and robbed several weeks later by a friend of the men she had refused. "That was a really dark thing that happened during the darkest time of my life," Bloom stated. "I was bankrolling the games, vetting the players, extending the credit." However, Bloom made a critical mistake as the stakes in her poker empire rose. She began skimming from the pot, fully responsible for millions of dollars and desperate to maintain control of the operation that had propelled her to success. As she quotes it, "That was the point in her life where she crossed the little gray line." While it could have been greed or a brief lack in judgment, the move would quickly draw the attention of the FBI and derail her lucrative effort. In March 2011, the FBI raided one of Molly Bloom's poker games, even though she was not there. According to some sources, she was arrested 2 years later and accused of profiting from illegal poker games. Faced with years in prison and large fines, she pled guilty in December 2013 and was fined $125,000 plus a year's probation. But in the long run, having avoided a lengthy prison sentence and financial ruin, Bloom appeared to have viewed her encounter with the authorities as a blessing in disguise. "I'd spent life so terrified of failure that when it happened, it was very liberating," she acknowledged. Her poker empire may have been shattered, but the deconstruction provided a chance for Molly Bloom to tell her story. Before she was caught and prosecuted, she was writing a book on her experiences as an entrepreneur who mingled with the wealthy and famous. Molly's Game was published in 2014 by HarperCollins, and while Bloom lost little time in getting her book into the hands of major Hollywood players, bringing her autobiography from page to screen was no easy task. While talking about it, Bloom remembered how everyone wanted to take a meeting to know about her life, but no one wanted to make a movie on it. But she found a friend in Aaron Sorkin who said of Bloom and her story, Molly was an honest-to-God, real-life movie heroine discovered in an odd location. This was a morality story about doing the right thing when the wrong thing is simpler. But what is Molly Bloom doing today? Now, she's focused on doing something purposeful with her life. "What I'm doing now is I know a lot about networking. I have a network, and I have a lot of lessons. I made a lot of mistakes, she told Ellen DeGeneres when she spoke with the talk show host about her past and the film. So I want to help women to be successful, and I'm interested in localized co-working spaces for women because I like building community around that, and also a social media interpretation that I'm working on right now. She said, Molly Bloom's life may have been a roller coaster full of ups and downs, but what she learned at the end definitely serves some purpose. Let us know what your thoughts are on this in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed watching it. See you in the next one.